Alrighty. I think we're live. Make sure we're on the right thing. No, that's audio. Come on. There we go. There we go. Alrighty, everybody. What is going on? What is going on? This, of course, your boy Bernie here. And before we start the live stream, my boy Pete's going to be a little bit late, but it is what it is at this point. We're just going to chill a little bit. We're going to talk some MVP stuff. We're going to talk about Jokic and the MVP and many other things as well. But I just kind of wanted to chill with a little bit of live music. It's just try to get some vibes going right now. I know that we had a kind of crazy market day in terms of just like the way that things are going right now in the world. But more importantly, we had some great games yesterday. I mean, Utah. Maybe we can even talk about that a little bit. The Utah Jazz and the Clippers series while we wait for my boy Pete. I thought that was an amazing series. It came down to the final play where Rudy Gobert blocked. I believe it was Morris. I believe he blocked Morris. Kawhi Leonard passed to the corner, and then Morris tried to take the shot, obviously, with not much time left, and then boom, they win the game. So when we really look at that, I think Utah is really trying to create a narrative for themselves of, they no longer want to be like I would say, why can I not pick? No, not green screen too. What the heck? 1 second, everybody. I cannot change. There we go. Properties. Go to the... No, that's not what I want. Default. Now, hopefully, if it goes to default... Oh, I hate when this happens. Give me 1 second, everybody. All right, now it's not working, which is cool. All right, we need to make this work. Hold up. Give me 1 second, everybody. I'm not sure why I'm having issues with these headphones again. This is kind of annoying. Streamlabs. Put there, please. Stereo. There we go. But now why can I not hear it? Maybe it was this. Property. All right, perfect. There we go. All righty, now we're chilling. Now we're cooking with a little bit of grease here. But yeah, again, welcome everybody to the charge. We're just going to listen to a little bit of music and really talk about last night's game. I really thought the Utah Jazz really proved themselves yesterday. I know a lot of people were kind of riding high with the Clippers yesterday after their win against the Dallas Mavericks. The thing with the Clippers that I find a little bit fraudulent is just their backcourt. I mean, I know Paul George is an elite defender. He's always been known as that, and his scoring was really what took him to the next level, but his scoring has not been here this season, and if we really look at the NBA math and really kind of dig deep into it, Paul George is nowhere to be found on this list. I mean, you see Kawhi Leonard here at the top. Meanwhile, Paul George, I believe, is somewhere here. I believe he's right here, or if not, he's somewhere in here, which, of course, when it comes to offensive points added versus defensive points saved, you really want your player, like if he's going to be the defensive lockdown guy, he's got to be somewhere in there, man. And I'm sorry, I don't know why the photo just doesn't show up as much, but like I said, looking at the photo here, really disappointed in the way that Paul George is not in there, and Paul George was always seen as like the second guy, always seen as like, oh, he could be a great number two, but now it's a question of, is he really a number two? But I'm really concerned for the Clippers. I mean, the Clippers obviously have Kawhi Leonard. He's showing out. He's balling out right now. But again, is it enough to keep the Clippers in the series? I think the Utah Jazz, without kind of like I'm trying to think what would be a great equivalent to it. It's like almost kind of like something that haunts you all the time. Without LeBron James being there, I think the Utah Jazz have a new sense of confidence. I think Quinn Snyder is an amazing coach. And now, can the Utah Jazz get over that stigma of being one of those teams that's like, well, they're just okay, or they're a great regular season team, but are they a great, playoff team? And that's going to be the biggest question mark going into kind of what we're seeing here when it comes to the numbers. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell is balling out. Offensively, not really as much, but there's so much camaraderie with the Utah Jazz. And if I can find the Jazz's number in this, I will. The only thing I'm going to do really quick is get the Discord ready for my boy Pete to make sure that he is going to be able to join just freely without kind of me doing this a little bit later. So I'm trying to remember what his was again. But anyway, kind of speaking to a little bit more of what we got going on here. I really am impressed with the Utah Jazz. I mean, I really want to watch I want to watch the highlights, but more so for me when it comes to Utah Jazz versus the Clippers. Is really just looking at the Game 1 highlights, and we can really look at it in just a second. One thing before we do get started, again, this is, of course, your boy Bernie here, bringing you the technical analysis, news and rumors, and also the coaching perspective as well. I'm going to try to do at least either on a Friday or Saturday. Next week might be a little bit hard just because I have a visitor coming in to see me. Let's see here. One thing I wanted to bring attention to you guys was actually kind of announcing something here on the channel. Oh, we got a call here. Let me see where he's at. All right. We got someone on the call here. Oh. Let me see here. Hello?
All
right, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. What's up, bro? How you doing?
Not too bad. It keeps cutting in and out, like when you're talking, like it cuts out like the last part of what you're saying.
Ooh, hold on 1 second. Keep going.
But yeah, kind of like looking at everything and really seeing. That's what I was going to talk about before we kind of continue on to the Clippers and the Utah show. The one thing I wanted to say, guys, is that we do have. Let me see here if I can find it. Let me see here. Just want to announce this to the channel. Just give me 1 second, everybody. Oh yeah, shout out to my boy Enzo. He's graduating this Thursday, so shout out to him if he's watching the channel. Let me see here if I can find it. Go here. Let me see. Go to store. I wanted to announce that we actually do have merchandise here on the charts. I know that it's been a long time coming. We have a couple of things on the store. So again, you go to streamlabs.com/FusionCorp merch. We got t-shirts. We got a mug if you guys are interested in a mug. And we also have a sweatshirt as well with the Charge logo. Again, I don't expect you guys to buy it. It's just here if you really mess with the stream, if you really support me. Again, don't necessarily have to get it. But it just wanted to bring that out there because I know a lot of people were asking about merchandise here on the chart. So if you do feel inclined to grab merch, that's on you guys. I'll let you guys decide what you want to do. But it would be really much appreciated to either grab merch or even donate to the channel. Again, there is a donation link. You go to donate. If you want to donate, that's enough. But again, it is what it is at this point. Yo, Tyrese, how you doing, man? But I think Pete, are you still here?
Yes, sir.
All right, Pete. Let's let's kind of talk about some things. We got a lot of things to talk about when it comes to just the NBA in general. I know we had kind of a list, but I was going to talk about the Utah Jazz last night, and I think they kind of proved something yesterday, to me at least. What did you watch the game at all?
I did. Yeah, I did watch it.
What'd you make of it?
Honestly, I think it sounds like our take might have been absolutely opposite. I mean, not necessarily that I didn't think the Jazz looked good, but my focus is more on the Clippers, I guess.
Yeah, you're not too impressed with them.
It just seems like Paul George just kind of doing his thing, man, doing normal playoff P type stuff. That's what it seems like to me, at least. That was a terrible game by Paul George. That's one of his worst playoff games, and that says a lot.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Paul George, I just think I know what I'm getting from him. It's not really something I'm surprised with.
Yeah.
But what I am kind of disappointed in with the Clippers is that they brought in some of these guys, and it really just it could work against the Dallas Mavericks because they don't have it's a lot of Luka ball. But when you play a very team oriented style basketball team like the Utah Jazz, I find it just hard to play or even just like we talked about Tyronn Lue to like ad nauseum at one point in the channel. I think we actually talked about it last week. Oddly enough,
Yeah.
I am just not impressed with the way that Tyronn Lue coaches this Clippers team.
Yeah. I just don't know if they listen to him, and I don't know if that's. I don't think they brought him in to have those guys listen to him. I feel like that's kind of the reason that's why they picked him. It's just like, hey, have a guy that kind of can say something to these guys, but whether or not they're going to listen to him is not really the coach's whole lifeblood. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's very, very interesting, man. It really, really, really seems like the Game 7 effort was all they could muster up to beat Dallas, and if that's really like their best game is against Dallas, like how are they going to beat a team like the Jazz? I just don't see it happening. Honestly, I don't know if they're going to win a game against the Jazz.
I think they'll win a game. I think the Jazz have. What's up, Alex? How you doing? I think they do have a chance to win against them. My concern is going to be what are they going to do afterwards? Because I think that the problem that I see with the Clippers primarily is that I just feel like their second unit is just like a huge drop off. And, if Kawhi Leonard's not balling out, then I feel like they have no chance. I mean, we look at the TPA again for my guys that just came into the channel or just guys checking in. TPA, you see Kawhi Leonard kind of at the top right, offensive points added and defensive points saved. Like, you see Kawhi as a beast. But then when you look at the other side, it's like, where is Paul George? It's like trying to find Waldo in this thing. Like, you can't find him because that's how unimpressive he has been during this series, or just like in the playoffs in general. Which I know offensively that's not his thing, but it's still kind of it's still a disappearing act on his part.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And the funniest part about this team's construction, and this is kind of like, I think we even had this conversation in our preseason predictions with the Clippers in particular. They really did not get any better coming into this season. Like, they actually got worse. Like, they lost a lot of their energy players, like their big guys off the bench, like Trez. Uh, this is like the kind of matchup where you look at this Clippers team and you wonder what they thought was going to happen. You wonder if they really thought that, like, just having Paul George and Kawhi like last year was going to be enough this year.
Mm-hmm.
Because really, like, even just the big guy situation. I see Tyrese just said it in the chat, like they need to start Boogie in the next game. I actually agree. Like, and that says a lot for this team. Like, they have to start Boogie. Like, and I like Boogie. He looked good in that game last night. I've always rooted for the guy since he's been hurt, but he's been a shell of himself for the last 5 years, and that's what
Hmm.
they need to rely on in this game. I think that kind of spells out the rest of this series for the Clips.
Yeah, I definitely think you are right with that. I think the big has always been kind of their biggest concern.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me turn up the volume so they can hear you.
Oh,
Um,
sorry.
I think it's on me. But when it really comes to what I'm seeing out there from the Clippers, I think you're right. To me, it kind of seems like it's very like Kawhi ball. There's Luka ball, now there's Kawhi ball, and I'm not really impressed with the way that they play. Again, we kind of go ad nauseum about the Tyronn Lue situation. But I'll keep voicing it because to me, like I just find it frustrating that they have so much talent, so many great players, but they just can't seem to get over the hump.
Yeah,
Um,
and really, the thing that always kind of makes me chuckle about this Clippers team is like if you look on paper how they built the team and the coach they got and how poorly it's gone since that big summer where everybody already claimed they were going to win the championship.
mhm.
They really, it almost looks like if you took a cookie cutter and you put it over what makes a good NBA team, and Steve Ballmer and the Clippers organization said, let's do the cookie cutter and just make a winning team by getting these two guys together and everything will happen for us. There was almost like no
Right.
thought process beyond getting two great players. They just kind of said, "Hey, we're the best now." And you could tell that by just their attitude, all those articles that were coming out,
Hmm.
last off season.
Yep.
But it shows in team construction, man. It really does.
Yeah, and it's going to be very interesting to see when they move on to like the off season, depending on what happens, if they win the championship or what's going on. My concern is going to be, does Kawhi Leonard stay? I know that your team is interested in him and his services, which actually would be a very nice addition to that Knicks
Hmm.
team. Um, and I think like Steve Ballmer, all the money, all the promises that were made, the yachts that allegedly were there, the story about Paul George and Kawhi Leonard being separated from the being different from the other players, and that's what kind of rubbed
Yeah.
some of the players the wrong way. Like that's going to come back to bite them in the butt. And Steve Ballmer is not a patient man. Like he wants to win a championship. He wants to get this thing going because he's tired of especially when he bought the Clippers. Right, they've always been known as LA's little brother, always like the stepchild, the basement dwellers of the Staples Center, and he really needs to make sure that these guys step it up because I'm again, I don't believe in this Clippers team. I don't think it's going to be a blowout per se like you do. I think it's going to be 5 or 6 games. But, the Jazz, I feel like, are too team oriented. I know this is kind of another kind of storyline that goes with the Utah Jazz, which is like, they're always great during the regular season. But now that it is, the postseason, they've always sort of crumbled. But I think that they could actually do it this season now that the kind of like LeBron James lingering like aroma of him being there is gone. I
Hmm.
think that relieves a little bit of pressure off the Jazz, and they can actually go out and do something.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And just in terms of like what might happen with this Clippers team, and I know I've mentioned this to you before, like, do you really think they would sooner let Kawhi leave than just say, "Hey, Kawhi, we're going to trade Paul George and get somebody better for you"? Like just full on Blake Griffin him?
I mean, I find it hard.
You think
Um,
so? I almost think that's more likely. Like, what you were basically just saying about Steve Ballmer not being a patient man. And yeah,
but
like I totally agree. He's a cutthroat businessman, right?
mhm.
And if you look anywhere to see what the weak link of at the top of the chain of this Clippers organization is, I mean, easily you could say Ty Lue, right? And I think
Yeah,
you and I would agree that that is the weakest point of this team is coaching.
right,
However, fundamentally, like they've put way too much into Paul George to only get this return back. So when
right.
it comes down to it, there's people behind closed doors telling Steve Ballmer that. No way around it. I He's getting traded, man. That's my prediction. I think Kawhi gets a mega contract. I think he wants to be in LA, and they get him a better player next to him. And I think it even might be so far as to be maybe somebody like Beal. Um, I don't know how they get that trade done, but I can't think of another superstar with like potential value equivalent to PG that they might be able to get. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you do move on from Paul George, but my question is, he's been traded so many times.
Yeah.
He's been on so many teams now. I mean, not really that many, but for a player of his caliber, you expect him to like be on a couple teams and be the second guy. My question is going to be like, what's the asking price for Paul George? Obviously, the Thunder got a ton out of him, but my concern for me is like, what do you get out of him now? Like, what's he worth? And I just don't think he's worth enough to get like a nice solid piece around him, unless you think Damian Lillard is going to be there. Unless you think that you could get Damian Lillard for Paul George.
Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. I mean, I can't even think of like any young guys they could even like try and sign or try and trade for because the only potential teams I could see taking like a huge flyer on Paul George would be his contract just got re-upped, didn't it? He just got
Yeah.
extended 4 years.
Yep.
I could see like a small market team trying to get a superstar like him in the building, and maybe he might be willing just to take a step back if things go really badly in this series and just be a superstar in a small market.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Portland. That's a good idea.
Portland. Oh, we got a lunch break. What's up, Justin? And then Tyrese, he said they might go after Lowry this summer. Yeah, I think Lowry
Yeah.
would be a great shout.
I mean, the
Um,
fact they didn't go after Lowry at the trade deadline is just astounding to me.
yeah. Well,
Like what
they thought that Rondo was
Rondo?
going to be the key, but to me, it's like when you look at a guy like Rondo, when you look at where he's at in his career, it's just like you get a guy like Lowry instead, man. Like you need offense. You can get a lot of leadership from Lowry. Um, I just think
But
Rondo offensively just doesn't cut it, even
when
defensively.
I'd argue too, like if they thought that seeing that first half of the season Rondo was going to make the move the needle for them, I don't know what they were looking at. I mean, he
Yeah,
was not the same guy as in the bubble anyway.
yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens. Again, this Clippers team definitely got a rude awakening. I mean, even then, it was a close game. Utah Clippers. This is going to be a tough competitive series.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see how the Jazz kind of adjust to what's going on. Even the Clippers, how did they adjust and figure out who's really behind adjusting the way that the Clippers are playing. Because, like I said, I don't think it's Tyronn Lue in my opinion. But that's not to disparage him as like a man, but it's just like coaching wise, it's just I've talked about it since when he was on LeBron's team. It's like I really don't see the adjustments that as a coach I would love to see. I know the NBA is different than high school, it's different than college, but I just don't see the adjustments needed to win a championship.
And the last thing I'll add is I would argue I don't see hardly any adjustments as a whole from Ty Lue. It it seems like if they come into a game with like we're gonna do this, they kind of just ride that out until
Hmm.
the very bitter end, which to me is a sign of not a good coach. I mean,
Yeah.
no offense to the guy, he seems like a good dude, but I don't know. But beyond that, this is not a championship swinging coach to me.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think about maybe like a Jazz Suns Western Conference final? You think that'll be a thing that moves the needle? Or like do you think that could be possible, I should say, more so than move the needle?
Yeah, I mean dude. I'm actually, and I know we need to move over to the Suns in Denver too. I'm not 100% ready to give up on Denver either. I actually think they can still beat the Suns. Uh, I actually am kind of starting to change my mind on the Jazz a little bit. A little bit. I didn't want to be the guy all season that was just saying, "Hey, this is a great regular season team." But deep down, I couldn't help but feel like this is a Toronto team from 3 years ago. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got the same vibe as like Toronto in the Eastern Conference a few years ago. Just,
Hmm.
killing it during the regular season, but let's see what these guys can do in the playoffs. Without LeBron in the West and really seeing how consistent they've been bringing the same like energy into the playoffs, man, I might have to change my opinion on the Jazz. I really kind of like most of the things about the team. Um, the biggest problem I think for them still is just like, what are they going to do against somebody like Jokic, right? Where he can shoot threes and play on the outside. Like,
Hmm.
what is Gobert going to do? Like,
Right.
I and then you have to then wonder what the hell is he going to do in the East in the championship games against like Giannis or KD or somebody like that. I'm not 100% sure they're going to get it done. I really don't think so. But I will tell you, I think Quinn Snyder might be the most underrated coach in the league, honestly.
He's a great coach. I mean, I'm not saying that just because of the high school I worked for, like alumni
Yeah.
bias,
I
but
just I just feel like he just doesn't get mentioned very much in terms of how great of a coach he is, but really like he has made Utah just more consistent each and every year he's been there.
yeah, it's just like the way that it just goes. It almost kind of reminds me of like a, and maybe I'm too young to even like remember like fully the team, but it kind of reminds me of those old Jazz teams. Now, obviously,
Yeah.
there's no Stockton to Malone, but what I mean by what I'm saying is that you really see the team really built around Mitchell and really built around Gobert. By putting shooters around. I mean, you really see that Gobert isn't a big that's like, I'm going to back you down. I'm going to try and dunk on you, and kind of be a black hole in a sense where it's like as soon as it goes in, it's never coming out. That's not
Mm-hmm.
Gobert's game. What makes Gobert very very good is that like he's able to get in the teeth of the defense because they throw it into him. The whole team, the defense collapses, and then boom, you kick it out to Bogdanovich, you kick it out to Ingles, and you have like a great combination of players. And the way that they kind of run their horn set action, like there's a lot of sets that I love from the Utah Jazz that I kind of want to implement, but I really like the way that the Jazz play. And kind of moving on to like the next series that we'll talk about, which is the Denver Suns series. I really love the way that the Suns play. Monty Williams, another underrated coach in my opinion as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that I think I know this is going to upset you, but I really think he should have won Coach of the Year. Um,
I can't. I mean, I would never argue. I think it was more fair to give it to him just because of how much they turned it around. But yeah,
yeah,
I wouldn't be mad at that. No, he did an incredible job this season.
I mean another just to kind of go as we're watching this. As this video, I mean, Bogdanovich has been like the unsung hero of this Utah Jazz team, and the way a good signing for them, and the
Oh
way
yeah,
you
he's
know,
really settled down too. I think like one of his problems with Utah in particular when he first got there was it just jacking up shots like constantly. And I know I heard a lot of Utah people even complain about that with him.
mhm.
But he's really settled himself down into like a really great complementary piece. Like some of these highlights he has in that game are just like who like you wouldn't even expect it from a guy like that. It's awesome to watch. Their role players are fantastic, man. Yeah, like
Yeah,
even Clarkson, we haven't even mentioned.
yeah, six man, really made himself more known like this year and just kind of these past couple years. Always is like we remember him from like the Kobe Bryant days, where like Kobe called him, "You're playing light skin" and all this other stuff, and like. We talk about the Clarkson. I think he was with LeBron, if I'm not mistaken, in that.
Yeah, he played with the Cavs that one season, the last season, I think.
Yeah, and it's just like you see the development each and every year from him as well. It's like to where he's at now. I think he's finally understand like this is my role on a team. Like I'm not
Hmm.
going to be the the starter, but I will be a nice dominant off the bench scorer with the way that I play. And kudos to him, and like I said, kudos to the Jazz for really figuring it out. Um,
Let me
but
let me ask you one. Let me ask you one more question about this Jazz team.
okay,
Something I'm fascinated about, just in like the mainstream basketball culture. Everybody's talking about stuff. I feel like I think the thing I'm the most interested about with this Jazz team is to see like what a series win like this over the Clippers might do for Donovan Mitchell's stock in terms of how much people rate him as a player. And I say that because like, I just said Quinn Snyder might be the most underrated coach. I'm not sure Donovan Mitchell isn't the most underrated young player in the league, too. Just in terms of like, we hear so much about guys like Tatum getting 50, and I know that game was incredible. It was a great win against the team they had no business competing against. But like Donovan Mitchell is kind of doing a lot of the same things, and he's just been equally as consistent and just under the radar. And I know his team is a lot better constructed, obviously, than the Celtics and a few of these other teams like the Mavs as well. But
Hmm.
I am very curious to see what this does in terms of where people rank him. Just because, everybody's always compared him since he started to get his love in the league to like somebody like D Wade, and it really kind of feels like D Wade on the Heat, like before everybody, like before the Heatles and everything, where
Yeah.
he's just the guy on the team and he just does everything on offense. And I've been really impressed. I was super, super impressed with Donovan Mitchell last night.
I mean, we know about Mitchell. I think the one thing that he can be a little bit better on is his 2 point game. I think that's kind of something that I've been critical of him. But I think you're right in terms of like, what better way as D Wade is a minority owner
Yeah.
of the Utah Jazz, which is actually kind of ironic in that sense that we compare him to him. I really am impressed with the way that Mitchell plays, man. Like 30, 31 points per game, or almost 32.
Hmm.
Giving you about 5.6 assists in the playoffs. That is, turnovers 2.8. A lot less than the last 2 years he was in the playoffs. He's been in the playoffs since he was 21. So you can see that 3 years of experience from being 21 to now being 24. You're really starting to see a very mature Donovan Mitchell. Yeah, he may not be shooting the 3 point as well as last year, which he was at 51. Shooting 40 now, um,
Still.
but he's still effective. Effective field goal percentage still at 56, solid. And you're really seeing like a player developing and coming into his own now.
Hmm.
And I think he's a tremendous player. And you are right. We do forget about Donovan Mitchell, and that might just be because he plays in Utah. He might be playing in that with the Jazz. They have a stigma about them, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think, more importantly for his stock as a player too, like he really truly appears to play winning basketball at this point in his career, which, I know there's a lot of casual basketball fans that I think that part of basketball eludes them when they watch basketball games. They just see the stats and they think players are great. This guy's awesome. This guy's great. Um, there is definitely a difference between a good 45 points and a bad 45 points. A la Russell Westbrook or somebody like that. Sorry to throw shots at you, Russ, but the thing I worried about with Donovan Mitchell coming into the league in his first 2 seasons, especially if you look at his statistics, like he was wildly inefficient from pretty much everywhere on the floor. He
Yeah.
has actually drastically changed that part of his game, and he takes smart shots. He gets to the rim like nobody's business. I actually have grown to really, really appreciate Donovan Mitchell these last couple months, much more than I did prior, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely in that draft, one of the steals of the draft. I mean, you really look at kind of like who was drafted ahead of him. Look at those players. Like,
Travesty, dude.
it's just crazy to see that he went to the Jazz. I know there was a lot of teams. I think even your Nets or Knicks, sorry, were
Oh,
also
yep. Yep. I think that was the year we got Knox, right? Or Nitwikina,
yeah,
maybe. One of those two. Either
yeah.
way, terrible compared to Donovan Mitchell.
But yeah, I mean, like kind of to just kind of the honeymoon phase of the Utah Jazz right now. They're playing tremendous team basketball. They move the rock. You see in the highlights that we're watching now all the movement. Shout out to MLG highlights for this video. You see all the movement that they do. And one thing I wanted to know for the Clippers, you finally started Luke Kennard after not starting him. um,
Finally, dude. I don't get it at all. I don't get it why he wasn't playing sooner. And I know that people will talk their talk about Luke Kennard and how much he gets paid. He gets paid way too much. I will never disagree. He is better than most of the players on their team. I'll be frank with you. He had no business not playing.
yeah, they just kind of for some reason they just like I don't know. Anyway, we know Tyronn Lue. We know his strategy. It's not good. Um, but let's move on to another team, Pete, and let's talk about first the MVP, and then we'll kind of move on
Yeah.
to like that Nuggets Sun series. We know that Nikola Jokic is officially the MVP, as my mom likes to call him, the chicken nugget is officially the MVP. Um,
The
one thing
chicken
that
nugget.
it was like last year. He was a little chunky, but he's actually slimmed down a lot since he been in the league. But I mean, Jokic MVP, man. What
I
what
love
what do
it,
you
dude.
what do you make of it? Do you think he was the right MVP this season?
I think so. I think so. I mean, in my opinion, picking Steph Curry is crazy. I'll just say that off the bat. Like, I understand why people want to pick him, but take him out of the equation. But to me, it was him or Embiid. It was Jokic or Embiid. And I think Embiid just missed too many games. And really, when it comes down to it, and I've heard a lot of people say this, this season was kind of almost like if you were to add one more category into like what made an MVP this year, it was durability. And Jokic was a freak of durability, considering, like how the guy looks and everything. He played every game, looked great every time he was out there. I'm so happy Jokic won. It's awesome, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I was tremendously impressed with the way that Jokic played this season. I think when we look at his numbers, like I think I started to change my mind. I think I had my boy Larry and Brad or Logan. If some of you might know him as Logan, but I call him Lay. Um, I was really starting to get impressed with like the first quarter of the season. I was like, maybe it is LeBron. My pick was AD because I thought AD was going to be healthy. He was going to be playing well, and kind
Hmm.
of playing the way that he did. Obviously, he wasn't, but the way that Jokic plays is the way that I want AD to play.
Yep.
Dominant big that can pass the rock. It's played through him. The offense is played through him. Now he's not necessarily the first option to score, but when you run the offense through him, when you have your best playmaker with the ball, which I think AD can do that as well, but Jokic does it at a great rate. You saw the first half of the season. I'm like, you know what? I'm starting to like Jokic as MVP, and I have picked Jokic ever since because of the way that he's been playing.
Hmm.
Um, Now this whole season. Obviously has played the most. I think the thing with Curry being MVP, my issue with it would have been he hasn't played enough games. And I know that, the soft tissue injuries have been up this season compared to
Hmm.
normal. And I just think that's due to the fact that there was a little less rest for a lot of these players, especially on the Lakers and the Heat. Um, I really think that Jokic, the way that he played, I mean, we saw, tremendous stats from Jokic. I mean, we look at Jokic's like stats in general.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh, it's insane.
kind of looking
Insane.
at it this season. I mean, we got, obviously upped his points percentage, upped his rebounding, upped his assists, upped his 3-point percentage, free throw percentage, effective field goal percentage, wins shares, PER of a 31.3. That to like when you have a 31.3 PER, you're doing something right now. I mean, PER is like the effectiveness of his play, and you see it when he plays, man. Like, averaging his points up to 26, that's not his best asset is scoring. I think his best asset is actually, knowing when to give up the rock. And unfortunately, due to Jamal Murray's injury, I think that they actually could have had like, I think they could have been like an odds-on favorite for the championship. I still think they could get to the championship. It's just going to be very hard, in my opinion, just without Murray and his playmaking ability. But I mean, you see Jokic the
See,
way. Okay,
this
go ahead.
sorry to interrupt you. This is why to me Jokic is like undeniably the MVP to me. And I think it's the exact reason why I cannot rule them out as still making it to the finals. And the reason being Jokic is impossible to stop on offense.
Hmm.
Absolutely unstoppable because everything runs through Jokic. And the problem with guarding Jokic is that it just makes him better if you double him. He's
Right,
better. There's not many players ever in the league who actually get better when they get doubled, right? And
right.
he is undeniably like it almost is a guaranteed bucket if you go to double Jokic just because he can put the ball anywhere on the court as with his vision. And
Right.
when I think of Jokic against the team like it, I know I already mentioned the Jazz, so I won't even mention them because I actually think they still match up pretty well against the Jazz with Jokic. But let's even pick the Suns, and I know the first game didn't go great for them. I just have to wonder, like, if Jokic really starts getting going in one of these games, what can DeAndre Ayton do to slow him down, right? And
Right.
Ayton, I will not take anything away from him. He has been significantly better this season, like an actual warranting player of the first overall pick in a year that had Luca, which is crazy. How do you, how do you? I just don't know how that's possible normally. But to get back on track, my thing with Jokic is this, man. There is not a better passer than him in the league. And I genuinely think that there's no point guard that passes the ball better than Jokic.
Mm-hmm.
With a guy like MPJ on the court and then just a few of their other role players, I think they're a pretty good matchup for just about anybody left in the league. And really, man, that is what makes a good MVP, and it's all because of him. It's all
Exactly.
because of him that their team is still that viable.
Definitely. And shout out to Aaron for the subscription. I appreciate it. Thank you very
Yeah, thank
much.
you.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you, man. It's one of those things like the way that Jokic plays is the way that I think a lot of these bigs should be playing. I mean, I think the way that he's been scoring the rock, his efficiency rating, getting his free throws up to 86%. Now you don't have to hack a big anymore. Like you have viable shooters out there. I mean, if you
Hmm.
have a big that can, knock down free throws, especially in the clutch time, I mean, that's huge. And again, he's been better each and every season in every statistical category, better in his 3-point percentage, better in his 2 point. And you're seeing like the way that he plays with the guys in Denver. It's going to be kind of interesting to see if they can get some of these guys to really, kind of maybe want to go to Denver and play with him. I mean, I'd be curious
Yeah.
to see if he can kind of recruit some guys to come with him because I still think they're maybe like a piece away from really, being a viable contender. Can they get to the championship? Of course. But I still think without Jamal Murray, it's going to be a little bit hard for me to kind of put them over the top, over like the Jazz or even the Suns in this series. I think I did pick the Nuggets to win this series, but I think another thing that we can kind of go to is really the Suns, man. They are a very exciting team to watch, and
Yeah.
not just CP3, not just Booker, Aiton, Payne, Johnson, like all those guys and all those role players. Like it'll be fun to see how they're able to stack up in this series, and even maybe if they end up going to the NBA Finals, which I know Alex has said that that's kind of where he sees the Phoenix Suns going. Could they potentially match up against the Nets? I know you don't. I think you don't have the Nets in the NBA Finals, but
Well, we can get back there. We can come to that. I might have some apologies to issue in a little bit, but for the Suns, I don't know, man.
you're not sold.
They're I really like their team. I really like their team. I will never take anything away from any of these guys and what they've done this season. Dude, I can't get over the CP3 injury hump. I'm sorry. I can't, dude. I
Does
just
that
have to see him be healthy the whole way through. I have to. I can't pick them myself in good conscience with how often and how frequently he gets hurt right at the worst moment. And I'm not rooting for that to happen. I genuinely hope I'm wrong. I think he's maybe one of the three best players to never win a championship. One of them, maybe. Maybe not three, but he's up there.
Mhm.
I would love to see it happen. I just am not sure. And he looked pretty freaking healthy in that first game. So, you know, I think it's really possible. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely with tonight's game at 6:30, guys. If you are on the East Coast, it's at 6:30. For my guys on the West Coast, it's at 6:30. East Coast, it's probably at 9:30 for you. But kind of going back to the point at hand, I think you are right. But I really think the way that Payne and Johnson and even Aiton, Aiton was a guy that we looked at in the draft series. I remember talking about him, and I still think that he should have been, a top 2 pick, top 3 pick, just the way that I think that he can develop into a nice big.
Yeah.
Um, he's kind of proven that with the way that he's played, with the way that he has kind of dominated, even just playing against AD for a little bit, right? Aiton had some great games. I don't think he's had any sort of, in my opinion, bad games so far, but
No,
um,
no, not this postseason.
But the reason why I thought Aiton was going to actually have a breakout year was because of CP3. With the way that he's able to get his bigs, the rock, I mean, he's had histories of it, with Steven Adams, with DeAndre Jordan, even Tyson Chandler when he was on the Hornets, and now to Aiton. I think you're seeing the growth and development, and this actually is a great thing for Aiton, especially, moving on to the next contract, which I know that he's really focusing on, next season. I really am impressed with the way that Aiton plays. And I'm even more impressed, with the way that the whole Suns play, man. They play some tremendous basketball. And like I said, talked about, Monty Williams deserves some tremendous credit for the way that
Oh yeah.
He's coached this team, and even the Suns. I remember making the video, Fixer Upper video. If you guys don't know, my Fixer Upper series, I talked about how they really needed a point guard to get themselves going. Like, yes, you have Booker, who could potentially be one, but I think his best asset is to score the rock and to have him like off the ball.
Exactly.
And we always talked about it. Man, the Suns, they need a point guard. The Suns, they need a point guard. And they
No, you
finally
really that video, you called it, man. That was the whole point of that video. Is get these guys a point guard and see what they can do. You were totally right.
And the thing that I'm really most impressed about with the Suns is that they have been able to turn around from that horrible like 2011, I would say, to almost like 2016, 2017 stigma about them, where it was
Yeah.
like, man, the Suns have Booker's so talented, most potential, almost with like Brandon Ingram levels of he has potential. And now they're finally living up to that, and the Phoenix Suns owners have finally stepped up and been like, okay, it's going to be expensive, but we got to get CP3. And you
Yeah.
see how much it's worked for them.
I think I need to go back for just a second, just to maybe more put my finger on why I am a little hesitant about the Suns, and this is more so the reason. I think their future in this postseason is completely dependent upon like DeAndre Ayton being as consistent as he has been,
Mm-hmm.
which he has been very consistent. So I guess maybe I should start rating them a little higher in terms of what I think they can do. My biggest problem with their team as a whole is just what do they do in terms of bigs if he's not playing, right? Their
Right.
bigs, but beyond Ayton, are atrocious. Like they're really, really terrible, especially defensively. And that I think is why when I think of a team like Denver against them, right? I'm hesitant to say the Suns I can see them winning just because I like the bigs. Like I don't know what my obsession with bigs has become this season, but I feel like so much of why teams are succeeding hinges on like a really effective stopper in the paint and somebody who can kind of trail a big who can shoot threes around.
Mm-hmm.
And the Suns beyond Ayton they're pretty rough in that one aspect, but their team is loaded besides that. Like Torrey Craig is a big dude. He can play some small ball, 4 or 5, especially defensively. He's really freaking solid. Yeah, I don't know, man. I really, I'll just apologize to the whole Charge family in terms of my takes on the Western Conference. I feel like I was completely off the packet, especially because I just hinged a lot of what my expectations were for the Western Conference to AD and LeBron. And I think it's very much so changing my opinion, seeing some of these bigs just dominate these games.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bigs have kind of been retroed in a sense. We talk about,
Yeah.
culture wise, the retro, like 90s is now back in. And then pretty soon, in about 10 years, we'll see like the 2000s, early 2000s kind of retro in.
Uh,
I, I, I know it's not your best, not your proudest moments, neither is it mine for some of the fashion sense back then. But it's just talking about retro, like the way that the bigs have kind of been revitalized in a way that it's like, okay, now you have to be more than just sitting in the paint demanding the ball. Like now you can start being part of the play. Like now we can start running things through you. We can start like getting you the ball and then kind of set screens for other guards. Guard to guard screens now, and it's really been a tremendous thing to see that there has been such a, I would say, retroactive. Not even retroactive, but just retro of a big now being a little bit more important or like adding more importance to their role than just you know post moves and other things like that. Yes, those things are important, but you're seeing like the way that Aiton has been a tremendous impact for the Suns. Jokic, obviously a huge impact for the Nuggets. Rudy Gobert, I know a lot of people are going to say he's overpaid, but I mean, for the money that he's paid, he made a key block in that Clippers series to
yeah.
kind of not send that game into overtime. Um, and I think you're seeing that even AD to an extent, without the injuries, I think he could be a really solid player. And, I think MVP candidate type of player, but it's just injuries have kind of been his biggest downfall. And I think the other bigs in this league need to start stepping up to that sense. Or even Embiid. I forgot about even mentioning Embiid. Embiid, same thing.
Mm.
Him, it's injuries as well. But I'm talking to the other bigs in this league. It's like guys, they're succeeding. Now it's your turn to succeed. I'm really talking to Carl Anthony Towns here. I really want him to succeed. I think he could be a solid player. I know we have our disagreements on him, but I definitely can see him contributing
Oh, sure.
if
I
he.
mean, this postseason in particular should be a wake up call to a lot of the bigs in the league who kind of were writing themselves off as being outdated in the league. It's not true. It's just not true.
Mhm.
It's totally dependent upon how teams play, and if you come up against teams that play a lot of downhill basketball, running down into the paint, if you have a big physical guy down there that can just kind of beat them up, I mean, the tried and true method of just making people not want to go run into that wall, it still works, dude. It still works. And DeAndre Ayton, I think, is a great example because he's not necessarily a great defender. And I know that was a big problem with him coming out of college was
Yep.
his defensive effort. He's definitely turned his defensive fortunes around. But the thing that he does the best, the absolute best now for his skill set and size is he just takes advantage of how big he is, you know? And
Yeah.
he really can punish people down there who want to run in there and challenge him. And I saw Tyrese mention it in the chat a second ago, but like a Nets matchup with them in the finals, it's kind of the reason why I thought the Bucks were going to beat the brakes off the Nets. And you know, I'm being proven wrong game after game as far as that's concerned, but I just don't know how. And you know, now I guess I can point it out to this for the Bucks, right? Because really, look at like Brook Lopez is really the center for the Bucks. Brook Lopez is not beating anybody up in the paint. Like he's just not. It's not happening. And
Yeah.
Giannis is not doing it either. However, like DeAndre Ayton is going to do that. That's how he plays defense. That's definitely what Monty Williams has taught him throughout this season as far
Right.
as being a better defensive team player. When you think of a guy like Blake trying to power through DeAndre Ayton, it is not happening. It's not going to happen. So I actually do. I agree with you, Tyrese. I think that's a great matchup in the finals as far as their bigs are concerned.
Yeah, I mean, just quickly speaking on the Nets, I think it's funny or not funny, but I think it's crazy how Blake has been very impactful in that game, man. It's
You want to just move over to the series because I think this might be we
you
have a lot of
think
talk, a lot of things to
you,
talk
you
about
think
with
it's
this one.
a get out the brooms and take a nice little sweep?
Oh man, it might be, dude, and this is crazy. I was the person shouting from the mountaintops. I thought this was like the Bucks had it. But the problem is this, man. What are they doing? Like coaching wise, what are they doing? I have not seen a catastrophe like the Bucks in their defensive game plan in these games. I haven't seen it in a few years, man. It's terrible. It's terrible.
I've been calling for Budenholzer to be fired like since last year.
Holy dude,
Since last year
I
should have
might need to
been
like get on
grounds
a
for firing.
soapbox here. I
All right,
might
go
need to
ahead.
like actually rant. Like, how do you have such bad defensive rotations against a team like the Nets? Literally, on paper, all the Bucks needed to do with the quality of player they have in comparison to the Nets, right? Which I know people like at first will say, would they have KD, Harden, and Kyrie? Like, besides that, the Bucks have a full team. They have a full team of players. If their defensive rotations in terms of having the right players matched up against the right players on the Nets were correct even half the time in this series, I think it would be different. I've seen Drew Holiday guarding KD way too many times, and I have seen Giannis guarding Kyrie way too many times. I don't get it. I honestly hope the Bucks get swept at this point. I'm so disappointed in them. Giannis has looked like he's so afraid of the spotlight in terms of getting down the stretch. I don't get it. I really don't. I apologize to everybody who listened to me say the Bucks were going to win this series. I couldn't have been more wrong. I'll eat my crow.
I think for me, it's like the Nets are basically daring Giannis to shoot, and it's the same criticism that I have of Ben Simmons. It's the same criticism, and I'll be fair in my criticism of Giannis. It's like, dude, you have to shoot the ball when you're open, man, especially in the three. What's crazy to me is I actually watched a b-ball breakdown on Giannis' shot from like his rookie year to where he's at now, and it's just like I just feel like the muscle mass that he added to his body has made him like so robotic and stiff that he has to kind of be like meathead when it comes to shooting the ball, and it's just like I need you to take that jump shot. And
Like, sorry to butt in, but my problem with Giannis right now is like it's almost the opposite. Like they're daring you to shoot, and he's taking them up on the dare. Why does he need to do that? Who is going to stop him on their team if he was to go to the paint every single play? Who has any chance of getting in front of him? Nobody. They couldn't stop him if he played the way he really should in terms of his skill set.
right.
I've seen him take these 3-point shots so many times in the series where it's just like they would be better suited to have just about anybody on the court other than him when he's shooting balls. Like he's just throwing these bricks up half the time. I don't know, man. I've been actually so wildly disappointed with Giannis in this series in particular. It really looks like he's scared to play against KD and Kyrie.
Yeah, I mean, we had the rumored what Jay Williams said about it. I mean, KD says it's not true, um, and obviously Giannis has won back-to-back MVPs. There's the story or like the narrative around Giannis. Dominant player, but playoff wise, when playoff comes, it's just like you're not getting that out of him, and it's one of those things that they need him. They need him to be dominant. They need him to be involved in the plays. And really help out offensively scoring the rock. I mean, you look at guys like, I know it's hard when you have KD and Kyrie going off, but no excuses as to why, without James Harden, they shouldn't be dominating.
No, this should be an easy win for them, honestly. I couldn't agree more as far as getting rid of Bud too, man. This is a travesty of a series. If I'm a Milwaukee Bucks fan right now, I'm actually livid with this team.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's one of those things I look at it and
Like if you look at some of the dudes on the Nets that are just working the Bucks right now, like Mike James and Nick Claxton, like I'm sorry to be this guy. Those guys are not good on 29 teams in the league. They are good because they play with KD and Kyrie, right? And if you know that as a team, you can completely eliminate them from the game, right? As long as you are full well knowing, right? We're not just going to abandon these guys on the court, right? But we also just have to realize like we're better suited to really play great defense on KD and Kyrie. It's astounding how much they've let guys like Blake Griffin beat them. And the Blake Griffin one like actually hurts me the most because it's such a false signal in terms of Blake is good now. Blake was just phoning in the rest of these games.
Yeah.
Dude, he should be making these shots. Nobody is doing anything to stop Blake Griffin. He's literally out on the court on an island, just allowed to do whatever he wants to do. And the only other thing, and this is where I'm going to draw the line, and I'll stop talking about this series. Chris Middleton has been so disappointing in this series. So disappointing. Holy shit, dude. Sorry to curse on the charge, but jeez, man.
You're good.
Astounding.
I'm gonna make my points, and then I gotta go to the bathroom really quick. So Pete, you gotta take over the show for a little bit. But my thing is, of course, is I actually think that Claxton is a pretty solid player for them. I mean, the fact that he has been playing more than DeAndre Jordan says a lot. I think that he can move really well. He can shoot the rock when he needs to. I think he's actually a really solid piece. Obviously, I think his value just gone up. But man, you're right. It's like Blake Griffin shouldn't be doing what he's doing right now. From what we saw in Detroit and what Jason Tatum did to him, like it's just crazy. The crazy difference from that Blake Griffin to where we're at right now with this Blake Griffin. It's like, I think he definitely needs to give some, make some Boys and Girls Club in Detroit for the way that he was playing there and just kind of phoning it in. But he's been an impactful player, and you just haven't gotten that from Chris Middleton. You haven't, you got Lopez, who's kind of just there, not really necessarily big, but man, it is Chris Middleton. it's been like a disappearing act. He's looking like Houdini out there with the way that he just like disappears, doesn't really help out the team in any way, and then it's like he's the second guy on the team. It's like I've been making the case that they needed to trade Middleton since last year. I've been making it because I looked at this team. They remind me a lot in a similar situation to Denver, or sorry, not Denver, to Portland, where it's like, all right, you've had this 2-man game for the last couple of years. It hasn't worked. Please do something about it. Make some changes, man. Uh,
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
it,
Uh, yeah, man. I really think like the Milwaukee Bucks have become the mental weakness team of the NBA in terms of what they're capable of, in terms of how much they're paying these guys, their talent level. It really seems like when it comes to the playoffs, they really shut off. And it kind of depends like series to series because when they started that series against the Heat, right? In the first game, it really, really, really looked like they were gonna do the Milwaukee Bucks thing where they come into the playoffs and play terrible and don't look like they know how to play basketball again. And then they turned it around and they threw people off the scent because the Heat were not good, you know. The Heat were not ready to be back in the playoffs again. They just it it wasn't there, but people took it as, oh my gosh, and people meaning me, I will not put me in this category. Watched that series and said, "Geez, man, the Bucks are really like maybe they're exercising some of these demons. They're ready to come out here and play up to the best of their ability." No, dude, it's the same team as last year. It's the same team as 2 years ago. It's a team that in the regular season has a guy in Giannis that can do whatever he wants throughout the regular season. Nobody is willing to get themselves hurt by Giannis because he's so big, he's such a monster. When it comes time to the playoffs, everybody wants to stop everybody.
yeah,
Everybody. There's no just hanging out and letting Giannis do whatever he wants to do anymore. So then it really expose the weaknesses of a team like the Bucks, and it's just oh man, like Coach Bud, this is in like it's damning of what he is as a coach. It's absolutely damning.
exactly.
He's getting out coached by Steve Nash. Like
Yeah,
I not taking anything from Steve Nash. Steve Nash is not a head coach until 6 months ago. Like you're getting out coached by this guy, and it's really disappointing. It's really disappointing.
yeah. I mean, my crazy thing that I'm seeing here on the charts is you see Giannis offensive points added, not very much, but the second guy is Drew Holiday when really the second guy should be Chris Middleton, and I just don't see him on the chart, man. I don't see him in TPA, which is total points added. It's just you look at defensive points saved, offensive points added, and the fact that I don't even see Middleton here at all is
Yeah, I see
concerning.
freaking DiVincenzo before I see Chris Middleton. Where is he?
Um,
He must be dead center somewhere.
and the crazy thing is that you have some guys that are not even in the playoffs anymore, and Giannis is like either a little bit behind him, or just like you have many guys that are not even in the playoffs anymore, and Giannis is not adding anything. Defensively, he's great, but offensively, it's just
Well,
you.
can I give you my harshest Giannis criticism yet? Just because I think it's more present now, especially when you look at a chart like that in terms of winning basketball, right? Like
Mhm.
compare him to the other bigs in the league in terms of skill set. It's actually kind of shocking, right? Like Giannis, and then you put Embiid and Jokic, right? Just take the three of them. It's kind of crazy when you write down on paper like their skill sets. If you were to not put their names above what they can do, Giannis would easily be the one with the least amount of skills, right? And I'm
Right.
not saying like that means he's a bad player. It just means he's much more limited in terms of what he's capable of when things aren't going right. A guy like Jokic can change up what he's doing. He can start passing the ball and getting, making these crazy assists, or he could start shooting threes and whatever he needs to do. Embiid is the same way too. They have other opportunities to do things to win a game. Giannis really doesn't. If he is not playing well, it's kind of over.
Right.
That's pretty. That's not a very good sign for just about any team wanting to win a championship. If your best player has that many limitations on what they're capable of, it significantly diminishes any opportunity of going far.
Exactly, and we'll see what happens, man. Like this series, could it go another game or two? Can Milwaukee win the next one? That remains to be seen, and that's the biggest question I want to ask you guys in the comment section or just the live stream if you guys are with us live. Do you think the Bucks series versus the Nets is over, or do you think that there's a chance that the Bucks can make some sort of miraculous comeback and make it 2-2, or even just win a game against them? I want to let you guys kind of comment in the live section or in the comment section down below if you're watching this post stream. Um, I think kind of going on to that, I think the biggest thing, Pete, is actually talking about. I know you kind of want to talk about a little bit. Is just um, this Kevin Durant scandal. Yeah, do you want to kind of go into that?
I think you need to be the one to give the backstory. Spill the tea, and then we
Spill
can
the
go into it.
how to spill the tea. All right. So if you guys don't know, Kevin Durant, apparently, he was in. I think
Allegedly.
allegedly has slept with a adult industry person, Lana. Like, was it Rhodes?
Yeah, that's who you said it was, Lana Rhodes, right?
Lana Rhodes. And apparently, she's talked about it on the podcast. Many other people have kind of, or on her podcast, I had like two, three girls, one kitchen or something like that. I don't even know what it is. I mean, anyway, besides the point, we've had a numerous amount of people try to figure out who, the person that apparently was an NBA player, played in New York, and basically all the signs pointed to Kevin Durant. And the crazy thing about that is that now apparently she's pregnant, and we don't know if it's Kevin Durant's kid or not. And so that's kind of my kind of recollection of that whole story. Pete, what I mean, what do you make of this, man? Is this kind of on brand?
I if this isn't on brand for KD, I don't really know what is. It kind of makes me really happy. It actually makes me like KD more. All right, and the reason I'll say this is this. Okay, it kind of adds to the internet icon that is KD. And when you stop and think of all the humorous moments, some good, some bad, of KD on the internet, this is almost the icing on the cake, isn't it? Isn't it like the culmination of KD being an internet personality? It just kind of makes me laugh, right? In terms of, it's not that important. Who really cares if he has a baby with a porn star? I don't care, right? I just find it funny that the most sensitive dude in the league is always doing things that get people talking about him.
Yeah.
Is that not weird? That's like the biggest question I always have about KD. Why? Why does this guy do everything in his power to be like a meme on the internet, except he's like so sensitive about it? That makes me like him even more because it makes it the personality that is KD that much bigger. I love it. It makes me
Yeah.
laugh.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just kind of like, make sure that if it is his kid, just be there in his life. That's all I really care about in that aspect of this story. And you're right. It's just like I think that for a guy that says he doesn't want to be part of the story,
Dude,
he's
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 always
he's
right in the middle of the story.
he's always
Always.
always around the middle story. Doesn't want the attention, but then you see things that are like, well, from my perspective, I don't think that's true. I think you love being part of you like the attention, you like the social media part of it, and
Yep.
I mean, we've seen it before, right, with the fake accounts and just kind of creating
KD is the
burner
definition
accounts.
of the guy, the definition of the kid in high school who's always like starts off his sentence saying like, I don't want to cause drama, but, and then they do the thing. Like that's him in a nutshell. I don't want to be a part of the drama, but, and then he does the thing with all the drama, right? That's just his brand. And I like
Yeah.
it. I like that brand. It brings a little bit of the messiness that the NBA used to have back into the fold. I appreciate it, man. This is what people are like. People are not perfect. People don't do the right thing all the time. People get into weird situations. I love the NBA. That's why the NBA is the best league, dude. It has always been the best league, and it will continue to be the best league. The drama.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of drama.
Woo!
There's definitely a lot more drama than a bunch of other leagues. I will say that. Maybe the NFL can kind of be compared or kind of give that. But kind of my thing that I've noticed a little bit. I think hopefully KD kind of understands. This is just kind of the life, and hopefully we'll see what happens. We'll see if the story is true or not, if it is his kid. But yeah, I mean that's kind of just kind of a little short story that we kind of wanted to go into as it pertains to Kevin Durant. There was a couple things that I wanted to talk about really quick. The first one is sort of these data suggest that there's a dramatic increase of injuries from the 2021 season. Um,
Hmm.
what do you make of like the increased injuries? And this is of course injuries not related to COVID. This is um, more so like soft tissue injuries, injuries that kind of cause some lingering, during the season. Like, do you think it's a
Yeah.
good thing, or not a good thing? Obviously, it's not a good thing, but like, do you think that the way that the way that it is right now, do you think it'll just be just towards this season alone, or do you think next season will also have the same ramifications?
Um, it's kind of a tough question, man. I would honestly, I would say it has a lot to do with just how crazy the world has been. Like, I don't necessarily think like that's exclusive to the NBA per se. I think people taking less care of themselves in terms of, mental health and all these other things, I think that adds a lot into your likelihood to have something go wrong,
Right.
get injured. It, I think it really is a byproduct of COVID-19 rather than actually being because of COVID-19. So I think that the headline is misleading more than anything else. I don't
Yeah.
know if it has nothing to do with COVID-19. I think that's just not correct.
Yeah, I think for me, what I notice more so in these type of injuries is just like I think that it kind of shows that the players haven't really been putting in the off-season work that they normally have, and it's fine because obviously the pandemic just completely shut
Yeah.
everything off. It's like like a moving train, and then all of a sudden it has to go to a grinding halt. Like everything behind it then has to come forward, and then it tips over, and creates a whole situation of mess. And the reason why I compare it to that is because I think NBA players, regular people, we've all kind of felt the ramifications of it. There's a reason why it's called the quarantine 15. There's a reason
Yep.
why there's so many, people that have, either gained weight or lost weight that had muscle, and it was just kind of there's a bunch of different things. And so um, I think that once we get back to kind of normalcy in terms of okay, now we have to go back to training every day. We have to make sure we work our bodies, get them ready. That's when I think you'll start to see a little bit more of this stuff go away, and not really become an issue.
Yeah, yeah, more than anything, I just think this is not a very good headline. I think it's misrepresenting like the reality of the situation for just about everybody, not just the players.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. And let us know in the comment section down below. What do you guys make of these injuries? Do you guys think that it is a big deal or not a big deal? And we'll see what happens next year. I think that's the one where
Well, we do have some breaking news. I don't know if you talked about this already. Did you
what's the
see
breaking news?
Pacers fire Nate
Yep,
Bjorkgren?
I saw that.
Okay. I mean, I think that the writing was on the wall as far as that was concerned pretty early on into the season, right? It almost kind of seemed like that rumor was around like at the All-Star deadline.
Yeah, I mean the thing with
Um,
the thing with this one, and I'll just go first. Sorry, Pete, to cut
no,
you
go
off,
for it. No, 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 go for it.
but it's funny to me that they hired this guy for a team that I remember talking about them when I was doing my live stream stuff. That was really into like we want to get to the Eastern Conference Finals and compete. The moves
Yeah.
that they made, Karis LeVert, obviously, they made the trade that they did. But to me, when I really look at it, it's like there's nothing on that roster, and even this coaching hire wasn't something I'm like, especially because they fired Nate McMillan, they decided to go there.
Yeah, look at how that worked out.
It just didn't work
Like,
out, and now they're
what
back
a
to the
terrible
drawing board.
choice.
Now they're back to the
Yeah.
drawing board. Sabonis is probably wanting to leave, and it's like now you're left with nothing, and now you have to restart all over again and try to figure out what your next step is. I mean, that's kind of what I see here as it
Yeah.
pertains to
I'm not
the
usually the
Pacers.
blow it up person, but this reeks of like a blow it up kind of team. Like get your pieces, trade Sabonis, get some picks in, trade Brogdon, get some picks in, do whatever you can just to get new young guys, some bunch of picks. Maybe take a flyer on a different coach who's like got a better philosophy. I don't know. It it really this is a weird situation where they actually shot themselves in both feet because now I think all the players want to leave too.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't blame them.
what a disaster! What a disaster for this team. Because really, I don't remember where we had them ranked in our preseason predictions. I don't think it was very high,
No,
if I remember correctly. But I think both of us were hesitant to not think they were going to be playoff teams, right? At the
I was
very
a
least, which
I was a little
we're
bit, but
okay. I might have had them at like the seventh or eighth seed, I think, or maybe it was like the sixth seed, and they would have avoided the play-in game, which on paper, really, their team should have gone that far.
yeah, I
It's
mean,
yeah, this is very disappointing. I feel pretty bad for Sabonis and Brogdon, especially.
yeah, I think Sabonis is going to get traded. I think that's a guy that could potentially see a move either to maybe a Portland or maybe the Boston Celtics. I'm hoping,
That would
but
be fun. That'd be fun. Portland would be fun, actually. I'd really like that.
I think Sabonis is going to be on the move because I think he's tired of the management there. I mean, they keep promising that they're going to get championship aspirations. They keep promising all these sort of like, yes, we're going to finally go for it. We're going to finally go get a championship. And then all of a sudden, you see what goes on, and it's like, it's that meme of "I'm tired, Grandpa," and they're just like they're tired of. I think everybody in that organization is just tired of losing, and
Yeah, they're just going up and down. Just like what a weird team in terms of like quality that goes way up for different like stretches of a few years. And I know this sounds super basic, like every team does this, but if you look at like what happened to them in the early 2010s, competing with the Heat and then off a cliff, and then they go back up and now they're off a cliff again. It's very fascinating to have like the rug pulled out from a team as many times as the Pacers have.
yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. Again, I'm hopefully there will be, hopefully if they hire the right coach, hopefully they do that quick so they can talk to Sabonis and kind of get his perspective, get his intake on it, and get basically the whole team's intake because I think the longer that it goes that these teams, especially the Pacers, like don't have a coach to keep going. I mean, the more that teams and players are going to talk to Sabonis, be like, "Yo, you should say you want to trade and come play with us."
Pretty much. Pretty much, man. Why would they want to stay at this point, you know? I mean, the final thing I can say about this is like if you look at a team that gets rid of a guy like Nate McMillan and then goes to somebody like this, it reeks of not really understanding what you want to do, you know?
Yeah,
Because really, if you to even go back to the beginning of the season, I, the question is, what even was their plan? Like, what was bringing Nate Bjorkgren in over Nate McMillan going to do for you? And I think in retrospect, looking back at that, like, what kind of choice was that for an organization to fire a guy who's just about as consistently of a coach as you can find in the league? Like, I know Nate McMillan is not everybody's favorite coach, but there's no arguing that fundamentally he's a good coach. Look at what he's doing in Atlanta, right?
yeah,
Why the idea of bringing in a guy who's never been a head coach was gonna, change much for them is kind of weird in retrospect. Kind of
yeah.
weird.
I mean, you had a 3-year contract. They're obviously going to cut that short now, and we'll see what happens, man. I'm curious to know if what Indy's next move is. Is it to see if they can get one of these assistant coaches that are in the playoffs, or if they decide to go the route of hiring someone that's well known, well respected, like a Mark Jackson, a Van Gundy. Hopefully, not a Van
I
Gundy.
think they should go get Steve Clifford. That's who I think they should sign as their coach. I think he's a much better coach than Orlando allows him or allowed him to be. Like
Yeah,
he was not trying to tank games in Orlando, which is kind of the problem and why they looked just bad instead of
yeah,
not the worst team in the league. I think he would be a pretty good fit for the Pacers.
yeah. I think it'll be interesting to see what goes on in that aspect of it. And let us know in the comment section down below, guys. If you are Pacers fans, we want to hear from you. What do you guys think of this this firing of Nate Bjorken? Was it a good move? And if you are a Pacers fan, who do you want as your next head coach? I know Tyrese has talked about Brad Stevens, but unfortunately, he is going to be our president of basketball operations, which can be a double-edged sword. So we'll see what happens there. Um, One last note that I wanted to make is that LeBron James is in the news again. Late breaking news: LeBron James will change his jersey number next year, and go from number 23 to number 6. If we guys remember the original story, LeBron James was going to gift Anthony Davis the number 23 jersey, but because of a Nike issue, they decided not to do that. So now he'll be wearing number 6, and during his Space Jam, he's going to be wearing number 6 as well. So again, little news there, but the way Nike works,
Why? Is there a reason why he would do this other than just to sell a different numbered Laker jersey to 1 million people? Is that the only reason why?
I think that's the only reason why, to kind of just...
Nobody's getting the number or anything? It's kind of confusing to me why. Like, I love LeBron. I will never not admit that he's my favorite basketball player of all time. All right. Can you not just not be in the news for like a week and just let other people have a moment? Like, why do you need to announce this right now? That's so dumb.
Yeah, I just think that's kind of what he wanted, man. It's just like...
Well, you see, he's in the news again for a different reason too, right? With Pat Riley, you saw that?
I did not. I mean, I saw the Pat Riley fine.
He got fined for essentially saying he would welcome LeBron back to Miami. Essentially coming back, which I just find humorous that Pat Riley is like the other equivalent, like the owner equivalent, or not the owner, but you know what I mean, like the front office equivalent of like the guy can never not be in the spotlight. He needs to say something to get people looking at him again.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the Lakers be going after a third star. I think they need to.
They should. I think Damian Lillard should try and go there.
That's exactly who they should go for. It should be Dame. 1,000,000%. They should try and do everything they can get. Everything they can do to get him is what I meant to say.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens. Again, this free agency market, when it opens up, is going to be crazy to see. It's going to be awesome to watch, and we'll find out, what moves are made. I know that there's been a lot. I think with the way that the Nets kind of formed their team, the way that they're playing right now in the playoffs, teams I think are going to start to form the 3-man team again, just because they always like to follow the trend. That's just my perspective.
Can I ask you one more question before we go our separate ways on this stream?
This will be the final question, but I love it.
Can I get your bold prediction for free agency?
Sure. What do you want me to give it or you?
I want yours. I want to know what you think is going to happen. I just want to know like what's the biggest move you think is going to happen coming into this offseason?
I think my biggest bold prediction is I think Damian Lillard is going to be a Laker.
Okay.
I think
specifically the Lakers.
I think specifically the Lakers. The only other thing I could see, and this is like just me being a fanboy, is that the Celtics somehow get Damian Lillard, and that just involves trading Jaylen Brown. That could also be one.
I'll be less specific, but that was kind of mine. Like I actually think the Celtics are going to get a superstar. I think they're gonna they have to do something. Especially Brad has to do something.
Yep,
has to people on his side.
Yep.
I don't even know if that's that bold of a prediction. So I'll just say I think Kawhi is going to go to the Heat, even though I said PG was going to get traded earlier. I think Kawhi will go to the Heat. That's my call.
Dang. Okay. I like it. We actually had a question from Justin. He said, I asked this before, but who do you guys think will be at a higher level longer, play-wise? LeBron or Tom Brady?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think LeBron.
It's hard.
LeBron's got 3 years left of being like a top. I know that this is like the anti-Skip Bayless take, but I think LeBron can be a top 25 player for 3 more years. Just based on the fundamentals of how he plays basketball, there's no reason he's going to fall off like a dramatic cliff. Tom Brady, I think, will win one more Super Bowl and then retire.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with LeBron too. I think that when I look at a guy like LeBron, I think he could play a little bit longer. The way that the game is played, it's not necessarily that energy taking, and he can even play a little bit more of a lax style anyway. With Tom Brady, it really, I think the way that he played, it's just hard, man. It's hard to keep going at a consistent level. Once you get to a point where like you're basically a noodle arm quarterback, that's when it becomes an issue.
Yeah, but dude, I think the problem is like both of these guys, and it
Let
makes a
me let me go to
question
the
like this
bathroom, but you
hard.
talk.
Oh yeah, go for it. It makes my what I was gonna say is it just makes a question like this hard because I think these two guys are not really comparable to anybody in the past. Like they're clearly working with modern medical science that nobody in the 90s or early 2000s had. So that being said, like Tom Brady and LeBron can probably go as long as they want to go. And I'm not saying they're going to go until they're 65, but the two of them fundamentally are so sound as players in their respective sports that they don't necessarily need to be very athletic anymore. Like Tom Brady, I don't think needs to have a cannon of an arm to be a successful quarterback because he's so good fundamentally. Same thing with LeBron. Let's look at some of the other comments. Kawhi to the Knicks, Dame to the Celtics. I mean, Tyrese, as a hardcore Knicks fan, I would definitely be pretty freaking excited if Kawhi went to the Knicks. My biggest problem with that, and I think I said this maybe last week, I just don't know how Tibbs, uh, I don't know how Tibbs and Kawhi mesh together. I cannot see Kawhi wanting to go back to playing every single game of the season like he used to. And I cannot see Tom Thibodeau wanting a player that doesn't play every game or isn't willing to put himself out there every game. Dame to the Celtics, I can definitely see. I think that's actually not that crazy.
Alrighty, I'm back. I'm back. I'm back.
Welcome back, Bernie. Welcome back. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know where I think Dame is going to go or if I think he's going to leave 100%. But like I said earlier, I think the Celtics are definitely going to get a major, major superstar. And whether it's Beal, Dame, one of those guys, I really don't know, but I think they're going to get somebody. Do you think the Celtics are going to throw a huge campaign out there to get Kawhi? He doesn't really fit your team very well, but he also is like, why would you not try and get him?
I mean, he'd be a great addition, but I think we need definite upgrade in the point guard position.
Yeah,
Um,
what would you'd have to move Tatum or Brown, right?
I would be okay moving Brown, and I'd be okay moving.
Wow, you think so? As a Celtics fan, if they said we're signing Kawhi and we're going to trade Brown, you'd be like, I'm great with that.
Because I mean, Brown is like he's a great player, but like Kawhi is just a two-way player, man, and especially as someone that like if you can get Tatum going, um, and you got Robert Williams, who I think is still a little bit underrated. I see that a lot better than I think Brown and um, Brown and Kawhi. I think Kawhi and Brown. I just don't know, man. I'm not a huge.
Man, as from the outside looking in, I think getting rid of either Jalen Brown or Tatum is just a mistake. They're both so good. They're both so good.
The problem is that you got to let someone go, and that's the
Yeah,
biggest thing.
eventually. It's a good point, man. It's kind of like the whole CJ and Dame discussion for all these years, right? Like, and now look at it. They've hung on and nothing changed. So maybe you're right. You got to let one of them go eventually.
Yeah, I mean,
it would definitely be Jalen Brown. Not even
yeah.
a question.
My thing too is like,
Oh, sorry.
oh, sorry,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just gonna read Tyrese's question. Do you think LeBron goes to another team before he retires, or retires with the Lakers? I think he's gonna go somewhere else.
I think he's going to go somewhere else, and I think it depends on where his son gets drafted. I think he really wants to play with the son. I think that's kind of like an underlining reason why LeBron James has kind of been signing these short-term contracts. I think he actually signed a long-term with the Lakers, but as soon as he's done, I believe that's when his son is going to be, but
Yep.
depending on if it's the high school rule or if it's just, we're going back to one and done. We'll see what happens. Like I think Bronny, um, I haven't really watched too much of him. I think he's had an injury actually, so I haven't really watched too much of him. But he's kind of stayed around the same level or the same number in the recruiting process. So we'll see, man. But I really do think that he's going to be there for a while. Um,
I think Braun is going to go to the Knicks. I hate to do this to myself, and I know that I just jinxed it. I really think he wants to play in the Garden for one season at least. He just makes too many weird comments about like how awesome and amazing it is to play there, and how much he would like to have done it at some point.
mhm.
It really seems like just a match made in heaven in terms of they would pay him anything he'd want for 1 year, and he would just be so amazingly popular in
Right.
NYC.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can see that happening. And we'll find out. What the next move is for Braun. I think Braun, he can go many different places. It depends on like what his, where he wants to go. I mean, I definitely can see. Um, I definitely can't see Braun in New York. But Tyrese, I cannot see LeBron to Boston. I think LeBron has a deep hatred for Boston. It's almost kind of like similar to Kyrie in a way. And I think it's just the way that we have, consistently kind of been, I would say, like his nemesis for like the past, in the 2010s, the way that we were, the later 2000s. Like, I just definitely see that as kind of being the big kind of stopping point. Like he may love the Red Sox. I know he's the owner of Liverpool, who in turn own the Red Sox and the rest of the Fenway Sports. But I just can't see him liking Boston or even going to Boston. I think that he
Yeah,
really, 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 really hates Boston. Just the same with
I
Kyrie.
agree with you. I agree with you. He has ownership of the Red Sox. It's super minor though. That's the pro. It just doesn't mean too much. Which I know it's crazy that he does own a part of the Red Sox, but it's a very small minority ownership of it.
Yeah.
What do you guys like better, dynamic duos or a super team of 3 stars? This be, I guess, the last question we read from chat, if that's what you want to do, my boy. But myself personally, I think it really depends on the players. I mean, it's kind of tough. I'm not I don't necessarily have a strong preference between either. I would just argue that superstar teams with 3 superstars, I think, usually leads to very poor team composition beyond those 3 guys, which doesn't always matter. It doesn't always matter. It didn't matter with the Heat. It doesn't really seem to matter with the Nets right now. So, it's kind of dealer's choice when it comes down to that. I just think you have an easier path to getting upset when you have a lack of depth.
Yeah, I think I like more of a dynamic duo and having role players that you can support those dynamic duos with. I mean, I think the Lakers were able to show it last year. Like when you have role players that step up to the plate, that a dynamic duo can definitely work. Um, I think, like you said, it's easier, in my opinion, probably to get to a championship with the way that the Nets do it, or like the Heat back in the day, or even the Warriors, or even the Boston Celtics in that 2018. Like it's just so much easier to have 3 guys that you can rely on each and every time. They're going to get you, 20 plus points a game, or can get you 20 plus points a game, and can carry you to victory. So I would personally, I would like more of a dynamic duo, but I can see how a 3-man team could be easier for a championship. But I do
Yep.
appreciate the kind of grind and the grit of a dynamic duo.
Yep. Agreed. Agreed. If I had to pick, I would pick a dynamic duo too.
I just think that's kind of the way it is. And before we get going, just want to make sure that there's no other news. I think that is it. Pete, do you have anything else to say, or should we sign out of here?
I mean, honestly, just need to apologize for how hard I was on the Nets, I guess. Maybe not hard on the Nets, but how excited I was for the Bucks, man. Can't tell you how disappointed I have been with them. Besides that, not really, man. I've been really enjoying the hell out of the playoffs. I'm excited to see Embiid back. We didn't get to talk about them at all, But I still will not give up on the 76ers. I still think they have a chance to do it.
I think it's gonna be
That's it for
hard,
me.
man. Yeah, I think
It's
it's
going to be
gonna.
tough. It's going to be tough. My hopes of anybody beating the Nets are going down by the day.
Yeah, I think the Nets, man, they just kind of turned it up a notch this last playoff game. So we'll see if like I said, we'll see if the Bucks can compete. And like I said, I do apologize to everybody about not talking about the Hawks and the 76ers game that happened yesterday. But I think me and my boy Pete will talk about that, and I'll probably talk about that in a solo stream later this week. And I'll let you guys know when that is. And I really want to thank everybody once again for coming in and tuning into the Charge. And giving us subscriptions. Again, guys, there is a team store, or I don't know why I call it a team store, but there is a store. There is a store that you can purchase a mug, that you can purchase a T-shirt or a sweatshirt as well. So, and there's also a donation link if you guys are interested in donating to the channel. I know that, like I said, it's not mandatory. I'm not requiring it, but I would love to see if we can at least get $20 this next month. I'm pushing for $20, guys, just so I can pay for the Prime subscription service of the streaming service that I use, so you guys can get this awesome content. So I will be, like I said, I will be live streaming once again this week. I will let you guys know when that is. It'd probably most likely be Friday after a team lift that I'm going to be leading. And again, guys, Friday we talk about coaching segments. So we talk a little bit more about my coaching background, what I like about it, what I dislike about coaching, and kind of just the basketball world in general. So you'll definitely want to tune into that if you guys are interested in kind of my perspective of coaching the youth basketball in today's game. But Pete, do you have anything to say or anything to shout out or plug?
That's it, man. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to next Wednesday. Not to build it up too much, but I think we're going to be doing an in-person stream next Wednesday.
Yeah, we're going to be doing an in-person stream. You're going to see my boy Pete here on the stream. I'll make sure to set up some microphones for us so we can kind of have some great conversations. And again, guys, I just put the link of merch in the chat in case you are interested in that. Like I said, not required, not mandatory, but if you guys would like to support the channel, it's there for you if you want it. But yeah, we will be doing some unlive box openings, and I will also be having a pack opening as well from Top Shot. I have a playoff pack. I know I haven't done that in a while. I'm kind of talking about that. Again, guys, kind of want to show you the merchandise really quick once again. Let me make sure to I think it's this one. Again, guys, if you are interested, we got a mug, got a T-shirt. Again, my personal favorite would probably be the white, so you can see the Charge logo a little bit better. But in terms of Top Shot, I want everybody to kind of take a look at the team really quick so you can kind of see who I got and what my team looks like right now.
I got to see this too. I haven't seen any of yours.
Let me do this really quick.
This is actually going to be my first pack on Top Shot.
Oh, yeah, you also bought one as well. I forgot my boy Pete bought one as well, so he will be opening his as well.
There's another reservation just opened up on there too.
Yeah, but that one you need like a stupid, like, crazy score. Something like that. It's just something dumb. But, again, guys, kind of want to show you the team here really quick. Let me minimize this so you guys can kind of see the squad. We got ourselves a Giannis Antetokounmpo dunk. We got a Daniel Theis on the Chicago Bulls.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
We got a Trae Young three-pointer, probably one of my favorite ones.
That's a good one. Are these all pack pulled?
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are all pack pulled. The only one that isn't pack pulled is my Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, you must have got that one pretty early on.
I got that one pretty early on. This is the Tyrese Halliburton. I still think he'll be a tremendous player in this league. He kind of proved it this year. I almost had him as my rookie of the year until, I think LaMelo's just going to win it. But again, Jaylen Brown, I got my Taco Fall when he blocked Russell Westbrook. You guys can see it here. Again, guys, for people that are interested in Top Shot, it's definitely a cool concept. But we'll see if the value of these cards stay true. With more packs being pulled, with more packs being opened, it definitely does dilute a little bit of the product. I have a Pascal Siakam, Caris LeVert, A Compazzo, have a Compazzo card.
Oh, the best player in the NBA.
You know, an assist from Compazzo. That's kind of his highlights for the most part. My favorite one of his is when he's, front spins the ball. That's probably one of my favorites to watch. And again, you got a Raul Neto, Karis LeVert, many others. A cool cat, Chris Paul assist.
Facundo.
Isaiah Stewart, his first Top Shot card.
That's a good one too. He's pretty solid.
So again, probably one of my favorites. I think it's one of the lower ones that I have. It's 465.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah, that's definitely lower.
465. Chris Paul's my next one, and it continues going on. So, again, guys, if you are interested in this stuff, definitely get started on your collection. But anyway, enough of me talking. It's time to get going. Hopefully, you guys enjoy the rest of your day on Wednesday, June 9th. Enjoy the rest of your day, Pete. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day as well, and we'll definitely be in talks.
Oh yes,
throughout the week.
It's just brother. Back at you.
Anyway, guys, like I said, please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Can we get this video to 10 likes? That is the goal here every day that we are here on the Charge. Can we get the videos to 10 likes? Let us see if we can do it, guys. I really hope that we can. And I really appreciate each and every one of you that has tuned into the Charge, Justin, Tyrese, and everybody else in between. Thank you once again for joining me here on the Charge. We appreciate you, and we'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace.